Good afternoon and welcome to the Pittsburgh Land Bank Board meeting of Friday, June 10th, 2022. Our first order of business is the roll call. Will the administrator please call the roll?
Reverend Ricky Burgess.
Here.
Dr. Jamil Bey. Councilman Daniel Lavelle. Senator Wayne Fontana.
Here.
Councilman Bobby Wilson.
Here.
Director Steve Mazza.
Here.
Director Wanda Wilson.
Present.
Director Karen Breen.
Here.
Thank you very much. That has a quorum. For those of you online, because I didn't see you online, I didn't realize that we had a quorum, so I was waiting for more to come in. I didn't realize that we had a quorum. That was my fault. Please blame me and not the staff. All right, that takes us to public comment. Are there any members either online who is registered or those in the chambers who wants to speak to this Land Board of Directors? Are there any public speakers? Seeing no public speakers, we'll move on to the agenda. The next order of business is the approval of the May 2022 minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppo-
Aye.
Opposers, nay. They're approved. That takes us to our report. Ms. Administrator?
Some of the items on today's report include the finished Mayor Gainey's transition report for 2022. Thanks to all of the committees, some of which a few of our board members were a part of, the city has released their report detailing recommendations to address some of the most pressing issues that we face, one of which being the lack of affordable housing in the city of Pittsburgh. Not only is this a crisis, but it stresses the importance of community ownership and control of land, especially in our neighborhood struggling with rising levels of displacement. So Pittsburghers have demanded a higher use and more accessible process for disposing of these parcels based on a critical need for affordable housing and improved neighborhood amenities. Moving on to our staff updates. So the first update is a huge welcome to one of our new team members joining the Land Bank team, Karen Lamson. Hello, Karen. Karen joins us through Panco Staffing Services, Inc., where she'll be assisting the Land Bank with admin-related tasks and offering support related to board meetings, board materials, correspondence, record keeping, and other programmatic support items. In her free time, Karen enjoys the outdoor recreational opportunities that Pittsburgh offers, and especially kayaking along the city's beautiful rivers. Next update on the GRB law contract. So the city has filed petitions to quiet title on multiple batches of the properties included in this agreement. The first batch is working through motions for alternative service and public advertising. The second batch is working through personal service and alternative service. The third and fourth batches are drafted and filed in groups of 10 over the next few weeks, and batch 5 will be filed this month. As a brief reminder to the quiet title process, we have a few of the steps outlined here. Some of the most pressing steps that we've run into with these properties is alternative and personal service. Because these properties have remained abandoned and tax delinquent for so many years, it is often difficult for our outside counsel to contact the owners, and this stretches our quiet title timeline out extensively. The next staff update is to the Tri-Party Cooperation Agreement amendments. So the Tri-Party articulates a process for transferring properties between the Land Bank, the URA, and the city. Working with city law, we're prioritizing amendments to this to allow for the transfer of city properties to the Land Bank, because currently the Land Bank cannot accept properties from the city without working with the URA first. So the city has reviewed these agreements and responded to the amendment to the original Tri-Party agreement, and we will be working closely within the coming weeks to have discussions with city council representatives as well as our board of directors. Any questions?
Yes. So there are no voting items on the agenda currently?
No, not this month. Other than the minutes, we are not voting on any items.
So I was going to say a couple things. One, I appreciate you including the transition team report in your chairman's report. And I just want to say that definitely recognize the need for affordable housing. And also, one of the main reasons we're here is to provide an opportunity, solutions to stabilize neighborhoods that, currently are low income. So it doesn't always have to be, affordable housing, subsidized housing in a higher income community. To actually get in here and do the work of clearing title for vacant abandoned property that people in, several neighborhoods that I represent, and to, get those back on the books so that someone has an opportunity to purchase that property, is also going to be an important step that we're taking. Also, this tri-party cooperation agreement, this is the agreement that's at council currently, right?
This agreement, so
Yeah.
we have our 3 taxing bodies agreement as well, and we engaged outside counsel to draft that. This agreement
Yeah.
is between the city, the URA, and the land
Yeah.
bank, and we are still working on pushing it forward. It is not yet completed.
So currently, it came to council. So
Not
it
the
came to
same
council.
one.
It's not the same one.
I don't think it's the one. I think the one before council is just the city's interaction with the land bank. There is another agreement, or it's part of, or I don't know if it's part of an overall agreement or they're separate. You have to help me with this.
Yeah, so our tri-party cooperation agreement, this is the one between the URA, city, and land bank. So this is land recycling in the city of Pittsburgh. Our 3 taxing bodies agreement is between the taxing bodies, that is the land bank, the city, the county, and the school board. And those are the taxing bodies. We are going to be working on pushing both of these legislative changes forward, but they're time consuming. And that's
Okay.
why we'll be offering briefings for our board members within the next few weeks.
Okay. Well, regardless, the bill that came over to council is to take property, that's city property, and to transfer to the land bank. I just want to say that in the future, like to see some more awareness to council whenever legislation comes over, because I think a lot of members had questions, and now that piece is being held for a public hearing, typically, perfectly fine. But also, we should work on a briefing also with council so that members feel comfortable of what's in that agreement.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that kind of insight is why we rely on our council members on this board, certainly. It is something I would like to see implemented in the future.
Is there a date for that public hearing? Could you say what it is?
I don't think the public hearing date has been picked yet, or if it has.
I haven't seen a date. The
I
president will
haven't
schedule
seen
it.
it yet.
Yeah.
I'll let you know. I'll have the clerk tell you one as soon as I figure it out.
Okay, thank you.
Moving forward with a staff update for our 3 taxing bodies agreement. So the PLB engaged GRB Law in drafting an initial agreement among 3 taxing bodies, city, county, and school board, about how they will handle and potentially forgive back taxes on distressed parcels of land. The land bank is exploring the possibility of a pilot project that would allow us to move a small number of properties through the sheriff's sale in anticipation of these long-term amendments to complete this agreement. This will allow us to be proactive while working through these legislative and policy changes. Any questions?
Okay, does that conclude your report? Two more, right? The bogs and the.
Moving on to our last two updates, these are property updates. These are both properties that the land bank owns, the first of which being 243 Meadow Street. In 2019, the PLB acquired this property with an outstanding lien that the Department of Labor and Industry was unwilling to forego. Since then, we've worked closely with the URA legal department, outside counsel, and the Department of Labor and Industry to provide a pathway for clear title. As we move forward with the process, the Board of Directors will receive more information. The next property update is 6 Boggs Avenue. The Land Bank Board of Directors approved the qualified end user for the purchase and renovation of this property, but unfortunately this individual is retiring and due to shortages in labor and materials has rescinded their application. Land Bank and URA staff plan to implement a limited request for information process with existing applications to move forward with this disposition for the highest and best use. The Land Bank Board of Directors will receive more information as the process progresses.
Yes, in terms of Meadow Street properties, I actually met with the prospective owners, and they found they were going to build a house on this property, and they found a move-in ready home in a different place. That's why it wasn't this. They found they got a very good opportunity of a house that was already that met their needs, already built and ready to go right now. And so they purchased, or either have or in the midst of purchasing that home. And so that's why they rescinded their offer on the Meadow Street property. That takes us to the finance report.
Okay, on hand for questions for the finance report, we have Damara Carter from the URA as I go through the slides. Any questions as we move on to the other finance items?
Again, there's no need for legislation. That takes us to one more thing. I'm always trying to push you, right?
So we have a few slides about our bookminder's estimate for financial services on behalf of the Land Bank, as well as a few slides that detail the cooperation agreement between the Land Bank and the URA for staffing services. So as you'll see here, we have bookminder's fee estimate for 1 year of financial services to come up to a little over $11,000 yearly. This is because they will bill the land bank based on a number of transactions with a minimum number of transactions at 25. There are 2 other fees associated with this service for a QuickBooks license at $399 a year and a Bill.com license, which will vary monthly. All these reports would be delivered as standard reports to the land bank with custom reporting available at additional costs. For the URA's financial services, the URA staff bill the land bank for several items. They bill quarterly for an executive director, time is needed. They bill for a land bank manager, a full-time employee, and they also bill for support staff on an as-needed basis, including other services like the property management system. This slide details the core support staff in addition to other support staff that provide services in good faith to the land bank. At the bottom of the column, you'll see the estimate for our staff accountant, which would cost around $9,620 a year. Because the URA provides the land bank with so many staff resources and the land bank is able to leverage these resources, we recommend relying on the URA for financial support and accounting. However, I will also open this up to any questions from the board of directors.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So you're giving information about what both URA would cost and bookminders, but not suggesting that we do both, that we pick one or the other? Or are you saying we would use bookminders, but then also have URA doing some accounting work as well?
Yeah, thank you, Director
Well,
Wilson. What I can, and what I believe is that the land bank, we will need a cooperation agreement with the URA to provide all of these services. And even if we take the staff accountant out, we would be paying bookminders for their full financial accounting, as well as a similar fee to the URA for these other staff positions that the land bank relies on as an affiliate entity. So my recommendation is to pick either. It is certainly possible to do both, but it does cost us a significant amount more.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. I would suggest going with bookminders. I think that the reporting that we're going to get out of QuickBooks would be an improvement and very helpful for us as a board to be able to see the financials in a form that comes from QuickBooks. And I have a lot of experience with bookminders and can highly recommend them. We would be, I think, in good hands from the financial, both from just doing the transactions on a regular basis. They're very efficient, but also just the reporting that we as a board would receive, I think would be the kind of reporting that we're looking for, because they would be reports run out of QuickBooks.
So I'm assuming that you will give us a recommendation by what, next board meeting, is that? So we'll get a recommendation from staff, and then we'll take actions next board meeting. We'll continue this conversation. Okay, Director Wilson? Yes?
Yeah, so you're just sort of putting options out now, and then we
Yes.
would take action next
Yes,
time?
that would be correct. This was an options for us to think about, and then I'm assuming next week the staff will make a recommendation between those two things, and we will pick one. We will either accept their recommendation or pick something else next week. So you'll get something from them prior to the meeting as to what their recommendation is. Okay? I'm assuming that's okay. All right, is there anything else with the finances? If not, that takes us to our legislative update. The Honorable Senator Wayne Fontana is with us. If you would provide your update, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, this report's starting to feel like Groundhog Day, so I might suggest some things to shake it up. Senate Bill 811 is the bill that would provide all Allegheny County land banks with an expedited sheriff sale process, as well as lower the redemption period. This bill is important to some of the things that have already been gone over, these taxing body agreements and other agreements between the city and URA. It would be very, very helpful to have this legislation passed. Senate Bill 811 is on the calendar, the Senate calendar. It's been over and over and over the last 2 weeks. It should have been voted on. Not sure why it's not, but once it's voted on in the Senate, it still has to go over to the House and go through their committee and their process. We'd have loved to see this concluded by the end of June, where the budget is passed, and I'm sure it will be passed by the end of June. Along with the other bill, I think that it's important is, they're all important actually, but House Bill 2209 is the bill that allows Land Bank Board of Directors to establish a virtual quorum via internet platform, Zoom, Teams, like we're on right now. The problem with this bill is that it was amended in the House, and with the amendments, not that they're bad or anything, but it did prompt about 18 Republicans to vote no. When we start seeing no's, that means somebody's somebody's pushing back. House Bill 1750 and 610 are Austin Davis bills. Quite frankly, they won't run his bill to any of his bills till they till after the election, quite frankly. That's probably what's going on there because they're sitting. Both of those are sitting. House Bill 2210 adds land banks to the list of entities eligible to be conservators under the Abandoned and Blighted Conservatorship Act. Again, this bill got 29 no votes in the House back in April. Again, it must be a pushback. All I can suggest at this point, these bills pertain to all of land banks in Allegheny County, not just to Pittsburgh. So if you have any friends out there at land banks that have Republican representatives, some phone calls would be in order to ask them to push it along. Right now, a lot of these bills are just being used as leverage for other things, and that's unfortunate. It's not the right way to legislate, in my opinion, but that's where we're at in today's world. So any help from phone calls to other land banks, directors, staff, even our staff, to make some phone calls to try to shake things loose might be helpful. That's the end of my report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Always. Thank you very much. Before we go to new business, I will also highlight something from the Allegheny Transition Team report. Although my name is not on it, I am humbled that they have taken some of my recommendations that I have been saying for at least now 6-7 years and have included in their report. And the two things that I have been advocating for, which is what I thought the land bank could participate in, was the report calls for 1,000 new units of housing per year over the next 10 years for 10,000 units of affordable housing. For those of you who've been to Larmer and saw the work of choice in Larmer, I have been saying that we need to consciously develop between 50 to 200 units of housing per projects at a time in multiple sites. And that's the only way you can get to 1,000. You know, you're not going to get to 1,000 units of housing a year by rehabbing 4 or 5 houses randomly. To get that concentration, you're going to have to almost break on a choice size project in multiple neighborhoods every year, right? So you're going to have to do 250 units or 100 units of housing over several years in multiple neighborhoods at the same time. And I have been advocating for that. And the reason we don't do it is because of cost. And I have also suggested, that has also made itself in the report, is that the city take out an affordable bond of at least $100 million. Somewhere between $100 million and $200 million is my number, because every year we lose affordable housing, and there's a greater need. And so we have, right now, we have a pipeline of shovel-ready projects that are just waiting to be financed. We could clear that inventory of projects in the next 5 years, create a flurry of new affordable housing on number one. And number two, prepare the land via the land bank for the next maybe 50 years of housing development by cleaning title and getting land ready to be utilized. And so I think the land bank is an essential aspect of that vision, of that plan. I will talk more since the transition team said it. I'll go back talking about it again, which I have been privately. In fact, we met with bond counsel under the previous administration. We got as far as at least meeting with them in bond counsel. I think that is an idea whose time has come. Let's take out and let's dedicate a portion of the Housing Opportunity Fund as a payback system, take out between $100 and $200 million, dedicate the money back to the Housing Opportunity Fund as its administrator, and let's jumpstart housing. in the city of Pittsburgh. And let's do that like now. And so that's sort of my thinking. I will start talking more about it anywhere to anybody else who will listen. And I hopefully am talking to the choir at this point of knowing that with those kind of resources dedicated in a lump sum, we would be able to do a lot more development.
And I'd like to make a comment
Sure.
as well. So I was fortunate enough to be appointed to the workforce development on the transition team and be part of the whole package of things that need to be done in the city of Pittsburgh. And I agree with you. There's a lot of ways that we can get this done. We have to figure out a way to how or produce the funds to do it. You have multiple units in multiple neighborhoods that could be repurposed, and there could also be ways to bring in new development as well. So we need to get the properties back on the rolls, the older properties, but we need to add new as well. So I think we're on the right track. And appreciate the administration's confidence in me by appointing me to that transition team. It's very important work. We know that's a living document. The working document we're going to continue to work on every day with multiple different things, including workforce development jobs and things that we all need for these underserved neighborhoods and these kids and people in the city of Pittsburgh. So I'm very proud to be a part of that. I'm very proud to continue with the land bank and continue our work here. Thank you.
Of course, we are grateful for both your insight and your help in helping us understand the vital role union trades work in revitalizing our city. When I say, and I just, for those of you watching, everyone here knows this, when I say new units, I don't necessarily mean new construction. I mean new available units. And those units may be new construction, they may be rehab, they may be a variety of mixture of things. But this construction opportunity that we can do in this city will not just be good for the communities, it will also be good for the labor pool, right? It'll create good jobs, and if we're careful, it also will create more minority participation in the construction area. And we can certainly, if we're building affordable housing, right? I'm of the belief that we want to build housing for the community, with the community, and letting people who live in that community have opportunities to build the housing that in the communities they will live in. And so we will, and we've talked about that, and that's something that you'll lead, help us lead, but we certainly want to do everything we can to help women and minority businesses and startup minority businesses and in just average everyday workers who live in those communities, that if we are going to have this sort of windfall of construction, that we are purposeful of not only rebuilding community, but creating wealth in the families of those communities by having them own their own homes, and on the other side, having jobs of building the houses that their friends and families will live in. And we have the capacity to do that, so that this new housing stuff could be just transformational in so many ways for the city as a whole, and for low and moderate income communities in particular. With that sort of homily, I'll stop. Hopefully, again, I'm preaching to the choir. Is there anything else that comes before this board of directors? If not, thank you much for your faithfulness and for your commitment. I will see you next month. Our next meeting is July 8th. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposers, nay. We are adjourned. See you next month.